Have you ever fallen asleep wondering what love felt like 800 years ago? Not the fairy tale kind, the real kind. Where people said, "I do," not under twinkling lights, but beneath the cold stone shadows of a castle wall. Where marriage was not just love, but survival, duty, and sometimes, quiet, defiant hope. Tonight, we drift into that forgotten world, slowly, softly, guided not by dates and names, but by the weight of real human hearts. It's late. The modern world hums in the background, cars far off on a highway, the soft buzz of a refrigerator, a street lamp flickering outside your window. But in this moment, you're not here. Close your eyes. It's a gray morning in 1284. A low mist curls over the rooftops of a quiet English village. Cobblestone streets are damp with the dew of a chilly spring. Smoke rises from thatched roofs, carrying the scent of peat and morning bread. In a cottage tucked near the edge of the woods, a girl named Ellen stirs awake. She's just 15. Her fingers, rough from days of spinning wool, twitch with nervous energy. Because today, she is to be married. She's never spoken more than a few words to the boy, Willen, a blacksmith's son. Their match was decided months ago, not by love, but by land and livestock. A dowry. A handshake between fathers. But Ellen's heart pounds anyway. Not from joy. Not quite fear. Something in between. And as the village stirs to life, and bells begin to toll, a story unfolds that is both ordinary and epic. A wedding day in medieval times. But it's more than that. It's a portrait of real people. Real hope. Real vows, spoken without microphones, without diamonds, without Instagram. Just breath and trust and bread and fire. The wedding night does not come with violins or dancing. There is no white lace, no rice thrown into the air. There is just a shared roof, a shared meal, and the quiet tension of unfamiliar closeness. Ellen sits on a wooden stool beside the hearth in Willen's family home. The fire crackles gently, casting long, amber shadows on the walls. Willen's mother has left them a bowl of stew and a hunk of bread. It's a small kindness. A moment of space for two young people stepping into the unknown. They eat in silence. Not because there is nothing to say, but because neither knows quite how to say it. When the bowl is empty and the bread gone, Ellen begins to gather the dishes, out of habit. But Willen stops her. "I'll do it," he says gently. "You've done enough today." His voice is deeper than she expected. Not gruff, but grounded. Steady. And in that moment, simple as it is, Ellen's shoulders drop. The first time all day. He washes the bowl slowly in the rain barrel outside, then returns and stokes the fire. She watches him, quietly. These small gestures speak louder than any vow. Later, when the candle is burned low and the cot creaks under new weight, they lie side by side, not lovers yet, not truly. Just two young souls, breathing in the same darkness, trying to listen to each other's quiet hearts. Willen doesn't reach for her. Instead, he says, "If you ever want to go home, I'll walk you there." And that's it. No poetry. No grand romance. Just an offering. A promise of choice in a world that rarely gave it. Ellen turns to face him. There's a long pause, then a soft exhale. "I'm not going home," she whispers. "Not yet." Weeks pass. The snow hasn't come yet, but the air holds the sharp bite of its promise. Ellen wakes early now, before the rooster, fetching water, tending the fire, learning the rhythms of a new life. Some days are harder than others. Some nights, she still cries quietly under the blanket, facing the wall. Willen never speaks of it. But each morning, he sets her wooden shoes by the hearth to warm. They learn each other in fragments. He teaches her to mend the bellows at the forge. She shows him how to braid rope from flax. He doesn't talk much. Neither does she. But there's a peace in the silence now. A slow unfolding. On the first snowfall, they stand side by side outside the cottage. The world is soft and white, and for a moment, time feels still again. "I used to think marriage would be like a chain," Ellen says softly. "But it's more like tying two boats together. You still drift, but not so far." Willen nods, says nothing, but he slips his hand into hers. And for the first time, she lets it stay there. We remember history by its battles and kings. But maybe we should also remember it like this. A girl in wool. A boy with soot on his hands. A loaf of bread. A vow in the cold. Not because it was grand, but because it was real. Because even in the smallest corners of time, love found a way to begin. Quietly. The seasons pass with the slow dignity of ancient clocks. Spring comes again. The river thaws. Snowdrops bloom along the fences. Lambs bleat in the pastures beyond the fields, and the forge sings with heat once more. Life, in all its quiet stubbornness, continues. Ellen learns to tell time by sound, the third bell of the church, the rhythmic striking of hammer on anvil, the hush of geese flying overhead. Her body finds the rhythm of chores. Her hands, once unsure, now split firewood, knead dough, and carry buckets without trembling. But something else changes too. She laughs more. The first time it happens, it surprises even her. Willen had burned a loaf of bread. He'd tried to surprise her by baking, but forgot it entirely while chasing a stubborn chicken across the yard. She comes home to a blackened brick on the table and soot on his nose. He looks so proud, so sheepish. She laughs. Not loudly. Just a single, honest sound. He smiles then, truly smiles, for the first time since the wedding. That evening, they eat the half-burnt bread anyway. It's awful. But it tastes like a memory being born. Later that summer, a storm sweeps in without warning. Winds howl across the village, flattening thatch and tearing shutters from hinges. Ellen is alone. Willen had gone to the next village over, delivering tools. As the sky darkens and the rain lashes sideways, she pulls the shutters closed, tends the animals, and keeps the fire alive. When Willen returns, drenched and muddy, he finds her calmly spooning stew by the hearth. "You all right?" he asks, concern wrapped in fatigue. She nods. "I kept the fire going." There is something in the way she says it. Not proud. Just sure. Like she has become a keeper of something more than warmth. In autumn, Willen's mother falls ill. Ellen is the one who sits by her bed at night, dabbing her forehead, spooning broth, humming lullabies she only half remembers. Willen watches from the doorway, quietly. Later, he tells Ellen that his mother whispered she was lucky to have her. Ellen doesn't respond. But she presses the old woman's hand a little longer the next time she visits. Death doesn't come then. Not yet. But its shadow visits, as it always does in this time and place. And Ellen, once a girl shaking in wool, now meets it with stillness. Strength woven quietly into her spine. 1 year. Then 2. Then 5. Their life isn't remarkable by history's standards. No great inventions. No battles won. No scrolls written in their name. But look closer. In a village where women rarely read, Ellen teaches a neighbor girl to write her name with a stick in the mud. In a home where silence used to live, Willen hums while he works. They build a cradle, not because there is a child yet, but because they hope there might be. And that hope, that humble, brave hope, is everything. They walk to the chapel again one day, not for a wedding, but to mend the roof, long neglected. Ellen climbs the ladder herself, hammer in hand. A passing priest stares up at her. "You don't see many women on rooftops," he mutters. She smiles. "Then you haven't been looking closely." Some years later, Ellen gives birth to a daughter. The night is long, and the pain is sharp, but she grips Willen's hand through it all. He doesn't flinch. He stays. Not just in body, but in heart. They name the baby Avellini, after Ellen's grandmother, a weaver who once made cloaks for barons but died poor. They swaddle her in cloth that Ellen spun herself. Willen holds her like she's made of glass. "I didn't think I could love anything more than iron," he says softly. And Ellen, exhausted and glowing and undone, whispers, "We're not made of iron, Willen. We're made of fire." "That's better." Years go on. Their hair grays. Their pace slows. But their hands still find each other in the dark. They plant trees behind the house. Chestnut. Willow. Not for themselves, but for shade they'll never sit in. A kind of prayer for those who will come after. And one day, many years from that gray spring morning when it all began, the village children will run past a crooked cottage, where a pair of well-worn shoes still sit by the door, warmed by a hearth that never died. They won't know the full story. They may never ask, but they'll feel it, in the quiet strength of a place built not on conquest, but on kindness. In their 4th year together, the rains fail. Crops wither. Rivers shrink. Bread becomes thinner, stretched with barley husks and hope. Hunger visits every home like a quiet guest, no one invited, but everyone must feed. One morning, smoke curls over the trees. A neighbor's barn has caught fire. The flames lick the sky like a furious tongue. Without a word, Willen grabs his axe and runs. Ellen follows, her skirts wet with dew, bucket in hand. The whole village comes, forming a line, passing water from well to fire. But it's not enough. The barn collapses. The farmer weeps. His daughter, just 8, stands shaking beside the smoldering ruins. Ellen kneels in front of her, wraps a shawl around her shoulders, and says nothing. Later that night, Ellen packs a basket of what little they have. 2 onions. A wedge of cheese. The last of the salt pork. Willen says nothing, but watches her with quiet pride. They carry it together to the neighbor's door, leave it there without knocking, and walk home under the starlight. That night, Willen pulls her close. "You always know what to do," he whispers. "No," she answers. "I just know what not to ignore." The village is old. Its stones remember things. And one of the things it remembers is storms. In their 7th year together, a winter gale comes screaming down from the hills. Wind splits trees, flattens chicken coops, and tears off roof slates like parchment from old books. Ellen and Willen are inside, sitting by the fire when it begins. The wind howls like a wolf at their door. Their daughter, Avelini, now 5, clutches her rag doll and burrows into Ellen's arms. And then, just past midnight, they hear it. A crash. Distant. Dull. Then another. The kind of sound that means something is wrong. Willen moves first, grabbing his boots. "The widow Mata's house," he says, voice sharp. "She lives down by the east fence." That wind. Ellen doesn't hesitate. She throws a wool cloak around Avelini, lifts her into her arms, and follows Willen into the screaming dark. Snow whips across the fields. Visibility is a memory. But they know this land, every fence, every rise, every path. They reach the old woman's cottage, half collapsed, smoke spilling from the chimney but no fire inside. Marta is alive, but barely. Her roof is gone. Her breath is shallow. Without ceremony, Willen lifts her into his arms. Ellen wraps her in everything they have, shawls, mittens, cloth. Avelini carries the lantern, shielding its tiny flame with her small hands. They bring her back. Lay her by their hearth. Feed her. Warm her. Let her sleep. For the next 4 days, they don't leave her side. Marta survives. Not because of magic. Not because of strength. But because someone came for her. Because someone chose to walk through the storm. A month later, when the weather softens and Marta regains her color, she presses something into Ellen's hand before she leaves. It's a tiny woven bracelet, old and frayed. "This was made by my mother," she says. "The last thing I had of hers. But I want you to have it." Ellen tries to refuse. But the old woman grips her hand. "You reminded me. That kindness is what keeps us alive." Ellen never wears the bracelet. Instead, she ties it around the wooden beam above the hearth, so it's always with them. Always watching. Years from now, Avelini will ask what it is. And Ellen will simply say, "Proof." "Proof of what?" her daughter will ask. "That you don't need a sword to save someone." Time has a way of softening the edges of memory. By the time Ellen and Willen reach their 12th year of marriage, life has found its quiet pace again. There are no more fires. No more storms. Just seasons. And in those seasons, Avelini grows. She is curious. Fearless. She climbs trees higher than the boys and returns with scraped knees and wide grins. She asks about everything. Why the forge glows. Why bread rises. Why the stars twinkle. Why grown-ups sometimes cry when no one is watching. Ellen does not have answers for everything. But she teaches her what matters. Always leave bread for the birds. Always say thank you to the earth. Always tell people when you love them, especially when it's hard. Willen teaches her how to hammer iron, how to oil a hinge, how to listen before speaking. Together, they build a child who knows how to be strong and soft all at once. One afternoon, while Ellen braids Avelini's hair, the girl asks, "Did you love Papa when you married him?" Ellen pauses, looks out the window. "No," she says gently. "Not yet." "Did you learn to?" A smile. A deep, warm smile. "No. We didn't learn to love. We chose to. Again and again. And is that better than love?" Avelini asks. Ellen kisses the top of her head. "It's the only kind that lasts." Years have passed now. The forge has gone quiet. The garden, once neatly tended, grows wild with herbs and flowers. The old bench where Ellen once watched the sky has faded under lichen and moss. Inside the cottage, time rests softly on every surface. Avelini, now grown with children of her own, walks slowly through the rooms. Her fingers brush the wooden beam above the hearth, the one with the fraying bracelet still tied around it. She remembers the story. She always remembered. The way her mother spoke not of battles or kings, but of kindness. Of how storms are not always weather. Of how fire is not always destruction. Sometimes, it's the beginning of warmth. Willen's tools still hang on the wall. Ellen's spindle sits beside the fire. Empty chairs. Full silence. A presence felt in the stillness. They are gone now. But they are not gone. Every loaf Avelini bakes. Every cloak she folds. Every time she hums while shelling peas, just as her mother once did, the legacy continues. Not in monuments. In memory. In rhythm. In the way we choose love, even when it's hard. Especially then. So if you're still here, listening in the dark, think of Ellen. Think of Willen. Two names never written in history books, but who lived a life that mattered. They didn't change the world. They changed someone's world. And sometimes, that's the greatest legacy of all.